Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and have you ever seen a weighted blanket? Weighted blankets are very comforting and very comfortable. They're made for children and adults, and it is a natural way to help with sleep and pain. It also helps with autism, ADHD, depression, anxiety, even dementia. There's been a lot of research and it's quite interesting. It's supposed to be approximately 10% of the body weight plus a little bit more. It's like a big hug. And of course, whoever is going to be using it needs to be able to take it off on their own. So it's not recommended for children under about the age of 3. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to make one. And I'm going to make it like a duvet so that we can cover it. Because I live in Canada, it's cold right now, I am going to be using a beautiful cuddle fabric. Now this is from Shannon Fabrics, and I'm going to do 2 different sides. I'm going to have a beautiful soft cuddle on one side, and this is a luxe chenille, and it has a lot of texture to it. Because this is going to be a weighted duvet with a cover, I want to tie the duvet to the cover right in the corners. So a little bit of ribbon, and you can use leftover ribbon because you're never going to see this. This will be inside. I'm going to use poly pellets. Now poly pellets are great. They come in this new pour bag. You can get them in a loose bag. You can also get them in a big box. What they are these little beads, and they're washable. The duvet itself is going to be made with the muslin and the pellets. The first thing that needs to be determined is the weight that you need and the size. Keep in mind that it's important that this weighted duvet sits on top of the person and does not hang over the side of the bed. Mine will be 40 inches by 50 inches. I'm able to divide that up into 5-inch squares. 8 blocks along the top and 10 blocks running down the length. That's giving me 80 of these little pockets, so I'm able to put 1 ounce per pocket. And 1 ounce of poly pellets is about 1/4 cup. 80 pockets with 1 ounce, that equals my 5 pounds. I find it easier if I make my grids first on one piece of fabric. It's easier than trying to do it afterwards. So I have my 8 squares by my 10 squares. So you're going to be able to trim off the seam allowance to what you want to sew it. I wanted 1/2-inch seam allowance, and that's just going to make the seams stronger. So I'm going to trim 1/2 inch all the way around from my lines that have already been drawn. I can sandwich my 2 pieces together, and I'm going to sew 3 sides. The top is going to stay open because that is where we're going to make channels. And before you sew the 3 edges, you're going to be able to put in a piece of ribbon. Now this is optional because you can make this just as it is. You don't need to make covers. But I'm going to make covers, and this is going to help tie the corners into the cover. They're going to be about 8 inches. Place your piece of ribbon so that that long piece is coming to the inside. When you put that top piece on and stitch, that long piece of the ribbon is going to be sticking out once you've turned it right side out. For the top, if you just stitch right to the top and just stitch up about 1 inch and backstitch so you're coming up to a little L. If you have a serger, by all means, finish off the edges. When I turn it, I'm going to have that ribbon sticking to the outside. You can work with the edges just this way, or you could do a row of top stitch all the way down, just to make it even a little stronger. I now have a really big, strong pillowcase. Because I did the grid lines first, I don't have to do them now. You need to sew channels. You're going to start the lines from the bottom and stitch all of the lines coming up. The horizontal ones are going to be sewn as you fill these little pockets. At the top, I've taken my seam allowance and I have ironed it in so that as I stitch up, I'm going to be able to stitch right to the end. You're going to have these long channels. We now need to fill these channels with pellets. We're only going to do 1 row at a time, and of course, the pellets will go to the bottom. A funnel is going to help this go along. The funnel needs to fit inside one of these channels. You're going to take the pellets, drop the pellets in. The funnel's just going to help it easier go through. You're going to shake those pellets all the way to the bottom, and do that to all 8 of these channels. Just take that and shake all the pellets right down to the bottom. Because of static, some of the pellets might not make it all down, but it'll only be a couple, and you'll be able to feel them. You can see that the pellets are right there, and this is going to be my next stitching line. So this is a good size. If you wanted to add more weight, you could add 2 ounces in each of these 5 inches. I want to make sure that there's no pellets along my stitching line. So just with your hand, move those pellets right to the bottom and then pin close to where the pellets are. Now you're going to be able to stitch along this line here, and that will enclose that 1 ounce in that 5-inch pocket. That first row of pellets is safe inside of their pockets. It's not important that these pockets are filled because it's the overall weight that you're going to want to accomplish. Continue adding your pellets in each of these channels, shaking them down to the bottom, and then stitching along this grid line. When you get to the last row, you will need to just close up that top seam. Stitch 2 seams right along the edge. The weighted duvet is now done. It does make a little bit of noise, almost like a white noise. You can take each of these pockets as you are filling it. After you've added the pellets, you can add a little bit of batting. It will make it puffier and it'll silence those beads. So if you like something very quiet, you can add the batting in, but be sure to add that extra weight into your measurements. We now can make the cover for the duvet. Depending on how many pellets you've put inside of each pocket, the duvet might have shrunk a bit in size. But be sure to measure yours and determine the size it is before you cut your cover. Mine is pretty much the same, so I'm going to cut the cover the same as I did the lining. I'm going to cut 2 pieces, the exact size, one for the front and one for the back. I'm going to need 1 additional piece, and it's going to be for a flap, and that's going to seal up everything. Take 1 piece and do a rolled hem along one of the tops. You're going to take the one edge, turn it once, and turn it again, and top stitch right along that edge. It's going to make one piece slightly smaller than the other. You will need a second piece of fabric, and you can do it contrasting or you can do it the same. It's got to be the same width by about 8 inches. You're going to take one edge and roll it and top stitch all the way down. Match up the seams, and then with the second piece, we need to just lay that down first. So the right sides of the fabric are going to go together. This is the rolled edge or that finished edge. Then the top piece is going to come over. If you're using one of these nice thick fabrics like this Cuddle, I would recommend doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So pin and stitch the 4 edges together. You can finish those edges by serging them or put a zigzag. So you have this opening here with this little flap, but both the right sides are together inside. We need to put some strings on to match the strings of the heavy duvet. Take some ribbon, about 8 inches, and just stitch them right over top of that corner, and do that to all 4 corners. Once the ribbon has been put on, we're going to be able to put that heavy duvet inside the duvet cover. Just match up the ribbon and tie them together. You're going to be able to turn this right side out right here by the flap. Just put your hands in between the layers all the way to the end. Grab those 2 ends and just turn it right side out. This little top piece is going to flip over and the weighted duvet is now inside. There are a couple of changes that you can make to this duvet cover. You can put a zipper along the top instead of the flap. You can also do a little row of top stitching all the way around, and that's going to just neaten those edges. If you find that duvet inside is shifting a little bit more than you like, You can just go and put some more ties in it and just match them up with the inside and the outside seams. You can also make this just as one piece without a cover. This weighted blanket has been made just on its own, so it's not going to be covered. It's still going to be washable, but it's all one piece. The size is the same. I've just added double inside of the little pockets. So now this is a 10-pound weight, so it would be good for a 100-pound person. You can add more rows if you want it longer or wider. If you're interested in the weighted products, there are other things that you can make. There's a really cute publication made by Susan White Sullivan. In it, she has a chart for the weighted blankets and lots of different things, scarves and little pads, vests, all sorts of things right inside the publication. When you pick up a weighted blanket, it definitely feels weighted. But when you put it on, there's something very comforting about it. Now, I'd recommend to go see a doctor or a physiotherapist to recommend a weight and a size. I'll put lots of links in the description to research and to different sizes that are recommended and to the book. If you've ever used a weighted blanket or you know someone that has, be sure to put comments in the comment section. It'd be really interesting to hear all the different stories. I do hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.